Hello, and welcome back to another video in Essay Masters Graduate School Essay course. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can prepare to write your statement of purpose in a little bit further detail. We'll provide brainstorming advice on three specific levels: temperament, experiences, and fit. So let's dive right in. First, as a reminder, your statement of purpose, or some schools will call it personal statement or just your essay, is your chance to show the program and specifically the faculty you'll be working under, your qualifications and goals. But while seemingly self-apparent, it's not inherently obvious where to start. So let's dig a little deeper into understanding what grad schools are actually looking for. First, your temperament. We said before love of a subject isn't enough because your love or passion can wane under the grueling circumstances of graduate school. Do you have the discipline for 5 years of study? Do you have the ability to work in a team effectively? We'll go into further detail on the next slide. Second, what experiences have prepared you for grad school? This one's pretty straightforward. You need to write out in brainstorming fashion the various academic, research, and professional experiences and roles you've had that have taught you the skills or provided you lessons that will help you in graduate school. And finally, why graduate school? This isn't as obvious an answer as you may think. Perhaps the private sector is better for you. Maybe a startup's better for you. You need to be very clear in your brainstorming why. Above all other options, graduate school is the right choice. As you're working on these three things, you want to categorize them according to these 5 questions. While most of the essays you work on will have slightly different prompts with the variation in wording, the vast majority will ultimately wind up asking you these 5 things. 1, what do you want to study? You need to be very specific here. Not history, not 19th century American history, but the rise of North Carolina during the antebellum years in the 19th century of American history would be better. Be very specific here. 2, what questions within the field do you want to ask or answer? Again, specificity is key here. You know your field if you're applying to grad school. You know what questions are being researched. Get detailed here. 3, what experiences do you have in this field? We'll explain more in a couple of slides. 4, why is this program a good fit? We'll also explain more in another few slides, but to address this right now in a little bit of detail, who on staff can you work with? What research being done at the program you're applying to aligns well with your own interest? Brand names and university names are not reason enough. In some ways, saying you want to attend a school for its prestige will actually harm you because it shows you haven't done your research. And 5, what do you plan to do with your degree? Again, we'll dive more into this later, but most of academia is research. You have to explain what your research will lead you to, and oftentimes there are good answers to this and bad answers to this. But right now, let's dive more into how to brainstorm your temperament, experiences, and fit. Here, you'll see some examples of questions of temperament. You don't need to hit all of these. Not everyone will be the best at handling criticism or in having a good sense of humor, for example. But you ideally want to show at least a good deal of these in your essay. So much so, in fact, that as Professor Alan Jacobs says, quote, the more pressing and germane questions involve a student's temperament. Many more people have the smarts to succeed in grad school and in academia as a profession than have the temperament. What he's saying here, in essence, is your temperament is as crucial, if not more so, than your hard skills and experience. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of students will major in a given field every year. A significant percentage of them would be smart enough to handle grad school. But you need to make sure that you also have the mentality and attitude to handle 1 to 5 years of hardship, stress, frustration, and difficulty. So make sure you're showing as much of this as you can in your essay. Next, you need to brainstorm your experiences. Ideally, you'll want to cover academic, professional, and research experiences. Examples of these would include lab work, a review of the existing literature, any work you've done as a professional at a company. However, 2 particular things we need to emphasize here. 1, your coursework has not prepared you for graduate school by itself. And 2, anything that happened in high school or earlier does not matter. And yes, we've definitely seen applicants write about those early years. Now, the accumulation of a chain of courses in your major can feed the narrative of being prepared for graduate school. But if you only can lean upon the 10 courses you took in sociology and nothing else before applying to grad school, you need to think harder about if you're prepared for such a path. Take note of this quote from Robert Furno. Quote, "The best essays that we've received are those that can articulate what brought them to this stage." Note that he's saying what brought them here. He doesn't mean emotional moments or dramatic past experiences. He means specific skills and opportunities you've had. Make sure that you are brainstorming this from the proper perspective. Finally, you need to discuss your fit. Again, we can't say it enough. You're not applying to a school, you're applying to a department or perhaps even a professor. Do not rely on rankings when you're making this list. We've seen departments and professors at so-called typical state schools outpacing the research at elite private institutions. You really need to make sure you are applying not so much for the name on the degree, but the name of the professor. But with that said, though, you do need to be flexible. Sometimes you'll get a different advisor than you expected, and your career goals may change, especially if you're considering becoming a professor, given the daunting job field. But with that said, you don't want to be so flexible that you're going outside your expertise or the department's expertise. So do your homework, as the article Kisses of Death in the Graduate School Application Process says, and make sure you understand how exactly you fit with the program you're applying to. So that's all for this video, and in the next one, we'll provide examples of good and bad writing throughout your statement.